I spent $60 on Meta ads, got 243 clicks and 0 conversions. Here's why I'm partially excited about that. Previously, I ran a Google Ads campaign for ArtsyPetz, and the results weren't exactly great. Something didn't quite feel right about that choice that I had made, so I decided to run a Meta ads experiment instead. I'm going to walk you through all the choices that I made, and I'm also going to show you the results too. The results are definitely better than Google Ads. Still not ideal, but it's a step in the right direction. The Google Ads campaign, I think, was never really going to work out great because it's text copy for a visual product. ArtsyPetz is doing custom pets portraits in a Renaissance style. You can have it printed on shirts like this, rather a sweatshirt like this, shirts, tote bags, or framed art that you can put on the wall, right? But that's so visual. It's very hard for someone like me who has no marketing experience to tie together the visual product with text-based copy in a Google ad. So when I got those bad results from Google Ads, I thought a better alternative could be Meta. So I decided to put those together, and we'll take a look at that now. So right here, you can see some examples of the Facebook ads that I put together. The entire experiment was centered around me only doing ads for the framed portraits that I sell. I could have done it for all the products, but it seemed like way too big of a pain in the ass, and I wasn't experienced enough to get one of them right, so I didn't really suspect that I could get all of them right. I didn't want to spend all the work setting it up for every single product when I just needed to get it sorted out for one product. So for shits and giggles, I basically just chose the framed portrait. I thought this could resonate with people pretty well. These ads, Facebook, or rather Meta, helped me design these a lot. I didn't have to do a ton of work for it, which was pretty great, but these ads in particular, these are the ones for Facebook. This is what you would see on a mobile device, not a desktop, because the vast majority of people ended up being mobile, but I'll speak more to that later. Right now, these are examples of the Facebook ads. These are examples of the Instagram ads that are showing up as stories. They're all pretty much, well, they're all almost identical. There's only just a slight difference between the buttons that you would choose, essentially. And this is where we start getting into the metrics of the performance, right? So the performance I thought was pretty good. It was significantly cheaper than Google Ads. Like I said at the outset, I only spent about $60. I got 243 clicks, and I only spent, like you can see, the average cost was 24 cents, so less than a quarter I had to spend per click. And I thought that was pretty good. I ran this over the course of, I can't exactly remember, like a week and a half or 2 weeks, something along those lines. I was happy with that. I was getting clicks for cheaper. This is the age and gender distribution. So you can see that ArtsyPetz was resonating more with young men and older women. I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be heavily skewed for females, but I guess I was wrong. I thought that was pretty interesting. Not a ton I could think to do with off the bat. Maybe if I was a better marketer, I would know. The results are what they are, and it's good insight for me to have as a business owner. And for the placement platform, the vast majority of the ads were showing on Instagram, and I kind of expected that. I said before that it's well, to be fair, both Facebook and Instagram are visual based. Instagram more so than Facebook. Either way, I suspected that it would resonate more on Instagram, and these results show that it did. And now this is where the ads interact with my personal website. What you're seeing on the screen is telling you exactly what happened in the transition from someone going on a Meta platform over to my website. And the results clearly aren't perfect. There's 0 sales. No people converted, which is obviously not ideal. The end goal is to make money, and the only way you're going to make money is to have people convert to customers. But I thought it was pretty interesting that I could get that many people over to my website, and I thought it was way more interesting that I could save a shitload of money by going through Meta ads. The real story, though, is behind the 0 conversions. This initially bummed me out because who as a business owner is excited about not making money? Probably nobody. In this particular case, obviously I wasn't thrilled that 0 conversions happened. It's always the goal of any business to make money, and there was no money made. I did only spend $60, so I can call that a semi-win. I didn't lose as much money as I did on the Google ads. However, what this does tell me is the problem is squarely within my realm. I think there's evidence here that you're looking at that the product resonates with people enough to click on an ad. Now, of the people who click on an ad, nobody's converting, and that process happens on my website, which I have complete control of. So it made me come up with two hypotheses. The first is that this particular product, I might not be pricing it high enough. I think a reasonable expectation that people have is a higher price implies value. It's not necessarily true, but it certainly implies it. And maybe I'm pricing my product too low. I've seen competitors out there with a similar product to the framed poster charging $100 for like the smaller size. And the smaller size I charge $45 for. And someone might be seeing that and assuming that it's got to be cheap. It probably isn't that great of a product. That's one thing I could change. I could increase the price and increase the implied value when I do that. Another hypothesis is that the product page isn't doing enough hand holding. I'm not showing enough example images. I'm not using the right copy. I'm not being explicit enough about what someone is going to get in the process the customer has to follow to get the product. I thought it made sense, but I built the fucking thing. Of course I'm going to think that it makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but that doesn't matter. It only matters if it makes sense in a customer's head. So that's another thing I can change. I could change the layout of the page. I could change the example images. I can add more. I can make them more diverse. I can use better copy, something that will resonate more with people, because clearly what I'm using is not resonating. Those are two separate hypotheses, but those could both be happening at the same time too. This is an and/or problem. It could be the first one I said, the second one I said. It could be a combination of the two. Luckily, I get to play around with those things, and that's definitely the next step. I shut off this ad campaign for now while I'm doing these updates because it doesn't make sense to drive people over. If they're not converting, it would essentially just be a waste of money. So after those changes made, I'm going to rerun the ad campaign, and I will update you on that. There's two other things that I wanted to talk about as well. The ArtsyPetz stuff is great. It's a product. It's cool as a website and all that, but that's not my background. My background is data engineering and data science, and I've always found it really frustrating that there are companies who pay me a large salary to do data engineering and data science. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to do that on my own. It always felt like the kind of skill set that exists within a corporate setting where I would have to be the employee of a company in order to do those things, in order to utilize those skills that I have. But I started rethinking about that a little more, and I'm making a push and exploring a different avenue, which is data as a service. This is nothing that I created. This is very much an industry, but I realized if I do data as a service, it would give me a way to use the skills that I have from my career and point it towards some high value products. Basically, I can build things and I can charge a lot for them. So my first foray into that is exploring. I'm not even setting up a business yet. I'm exploring whether or not there's an appetite for medical device companies to get highly targeted leads put into their sales pipeline. I've always worked with either healthcare data explicitly or healthcare adjacent data. So I know a decent amount about that space. I know a decent amount about data sources, all the places on the internet where you can find that kind of information and rely on it and know that it's accurate. So I thought, can I build a data as a service product where I'm serving that data up to these sales and marketing teams for medical device companies? With the assumption is that they do want that kind of product, so they're not wasting time on poorly qualified leads, and they get to sell to people who they're very confident would be interested in their device, or at least having a conversation get started. Not a lot to report on that yet. That's super early stages, but at least it's a way for me to try to bridge my frustration of I have all these skills within the data realm. I can't figure out a place to fucking use them. Maybe this is an avenue for that. Like everything else, I will let you know any updates on that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was a problem that I was having, and I finally had a little time in my calendar to build something as a solution. I love YouTube, but I absolutely fucking hate how much time I would have to spend to watch all the videos that I'm interested in. There are so many videos that I think could provide value in terms of like all this business stuff that I'm trying to kick off. There's a lot there for me to learn, but I absolutely have nowhere near the time to watch the videos that I'm interested in. They could be 15 minutes to multiple hours long, and that would just be a gargantuan waste of my time. So I decided to build something to solve that. So I built a summarizer, and I'm going to show you right now because I love building shit and I love talking about it. So now that we know what the problem is, the solution is to drop in a link to a YouTube video that I'm interested in. And what I get is an executive summary and a detailed summary. When I see a YouTube video and I want to watch it, I ultimately don't want to waste my time. And this has happened to me. I can't tell you how many times where I watch the video, I get to the end, and I go, well, that fucking sucks. There was nothing there for me to learn, and I just wasted 15 minutes to an hour. So now what I do is with this tool, I just take a link to the YouTube video, I drop it in, I click generate, and what it does is it creates a detailed summary and an executive summary. So I read the executive summary to get an understanding of what this video is about. If I read the executive summary and I'm interested in learning more, I go over to the detailed summary, and it is just a very, very detailed breakdown of what happens exactly in the video. So let me show you a brief example how this works in terms of an output. Let's say we just pick this video, we go over and we see the executive summary. It roughly tells us that this guy built this app for this much money, and he has some techniques that he tried using Reddit. Details don't really matter. I could read this and think, oh, there's a lot of interesting shit here that I want to learn about. So let me go over to the detailed summary. And the detailed summary is basically cliff notes for a YouTube video. I get to look at this and see exactly what they talked about. And for all the stuff that's really interesting to me and that I want to try to implement, it's here in text form. I can go copy and paste it and just try it out myself. I can look at these things and it becomes incredibly actionable. In a YouTube video, not so much. You would have to watch it a bunch of times and try to memorize what they said. And fuck that. I don't have the time to do all that stuff. With this, it's already made things actionable, which I thought was pretty cool. And like I said, this is just something that I built for my own problem solving, and it's been incredibly helpful so far. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I wanted to share it. In the description, you can find a link to my GitHub where you can try to run this locally on your machine using Docker. And if you have no fucking clue what that means, just leave a comment and I can try to figure out how to make this an app that people can access themselves. So a quick recap for the past week. Like every other week, I swing this pendulum between I'm useless and I'm awesome. I felt useless with the ad campaign. I felt kind of useless with the data as a service thing, not really knowing what to do there. And then I started to feel a little awesome that I built that YouTube summarizer. It's funny how that's becoming a pattern. I also recognized that 0 sales doesn't mean a failure. This is a bumpy road that I'm on. There's going to be ups and downs and stuff like that. I know that in my head, but it's one thing to know it. It's another to live it. And I'm certainly living that right now. And with that being said, on to the next week. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Comments are cool too. See ya.